Here's what nobody tells you about manipulative people. They are not all the same. Some people manipulate because they're emotionally overwhelmed, insecure, or terrified of being abandoned or rejected. But not all manipulation comes from pain. Sometimes it's strategic, calculated, intentional. And if you've ever looked back at your relationship and thought, there is no way she didn't know exactly what she was doing, then this video is for you. I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and most of the stories I hear involve women with strong narcissistic or borderline traits. But every once in a while, I hear a story that makes me stop and think, this isn't just narcissism alone. And that's when I start thinking about someone who's high in what's called the Dark Triad. The Dark Triad is a combination of narcissistic, Machiavellian, and psychopathic personality traits. In other words, you're dealing with someone who is strategically exploitative, socially predatory, and willing to hurt other people without remorse if that's what it takes to get what they want. And when those traits come together, you can be dealing with someone who will absolutely destroy your life. And the shocking part is that you might not even see it coming. Now, since I work almost exclusively with men, I'll be talking about how the Dark Triad can look in women. But that's not to say that men cannot be high in Dark Triad traits as well. First sign, she is a social predator. To someone high in Dark Triad traits, people are opportunities. She is constantly scanning for who has money, who has status, who has influence, who can open doors, who has a good reputation, but she's also looking for something else. Someone who has empathy, is loyal, sees the good in people, and keeps their promises. Now, I want you to notice something here. None of these traits are bad. So just know that you weren't targeted because you're weak. You were actually targeted because of your strengths and because you had something that was of value to her. And you have to understand that every predator knows one thing. They know that if people see them as dangerous, they'll protect themselves. So she starts by looking sweet, charming, vulnerable, and safe. And that's exactly what love bombing, mirroring, and playing the victim does. It gets you to trust her. It gets you attached to her. It gets you to lower your guard. And before you know it, you're not asking whether she's safe, you're asking how to save her. And that's the trap, because the moment you become her protector, that's the moment she bypasses your alarm system, and that's when you hand over the keys to your nervous system. The second thing is, once she has the keys, she studies your owner's manual. Not because she's interested in understanding you or getting to know you, but because she's mapping you out. What makes you feel guilty? What makes you angry? What makes you chase her? What makes you apologize? What makes you hand over your money, drop your boundaries, and makes you question yourself? So every conversation, every conflict, every reconciliation, every vulnerable moment gives her more data, which she is piecing together to manipulate you. So while you're busy falling in love, she's learning you, learning your fears, your insecurities, your values, and your deepest desires. And at first, she didn't know exactly what would work on you. But what she does is she rushes intimacy, she gains your trust, and she starts with what works on most men. Again, the love bombing, playing the victim, guilt, sex, fear, jealousy, and then watches your response. And then she adjusted and optimized until she knew exactly which buttons to push to get you to give her what she wanted. With narcissism, what you'll often see is the same manipulation tactics repeated over and over. Someone high in Dark Triad traits isn't loyal to any particular manipulation tactic. They are loyal to the outcome. And that's what made the manipulation so dangerous. It wasn't generic. It wasn't just emotional, impulsive, or defensive. These were offense mechanisms that were customized to manipulate you. And once she learned your owner's manual, she knew exactly how to drive you. The third thing is she didn't just have one mask, she had a whole collection. So with narcissism, the mask projects the narcissist's ideal image of themselves. I'm the victim. I'm the good person. I'm misunderstood. I'm the best. And when that mask slips, you see the contempt, the rage, the devaluation. And then they're desperately scrambling to get the mask back on. But someone high in dark triad traits, they're not just protecting a false identity. The mask is a tool, and there are many masks depending on what will give her the best result and the greatest advantage. So she's not thinking, I need him to see me as the victim. She's thinking, who do I need to be in this moment to get what I want right now? If that's the vulnerable victim, she becomes that. If it's the seductress, she becomes the seductress. If it's the woman who's suddenly done with you, that's who she becomes. Her identity itself is strategic. Number 4 is your pain serves a purpose. So most people have lines they won't cross. They won't falsely accuse someone, destroy someone's reputation, use their children as weapons, lie just to get what they want. Not because they couldn't, but because they have a conscience. But with someone with dark triad traits, if crossing the line gets the results, then the line becomes irrelevant. And one of the hardest things for good people to grasp is that someone you love deceived you on purpose. She wasn't asking, am I hurting him? She was asking, is this still serving a purpose? Because if your pain makes you apologize or try harder or question yourself or walk on eggshells or stay when you should leave, then your pain is serving her purpose and it's not a problem for her. In fact, the more you're suffering, the more control she has. And maybe the most disturbing part is that she could do things that would make a healthy person feel sick and then sleep like a baby. She doesn't see your suffering as a warning light. It just reminds her that she's still in the driver's seat. The 5th thing is she doesn't just manipulate you, she manipulates your reality. Her deception and manipulation has a purpose. It's to hide contradictory behavior, inconsistent explanations, financial exploitation. It's to test how much you'll tolerate and how much she can twist your perception of reality. And as soon as you're onto her, suddenly there's a new explanation, a new accusation, a new victim story, a new distraction, a new lie, a new promise, whatever. But the truth always becomes impossible to pin down, because every time you think you've got it, she shifts your reality again. She creates just enough confusion that you can no longer tell whether you're coming or going. And if you don't know where you are, it is very hard to find your way out. Number 6 is she extracts as much as possible. So throughout the relationship, you thought you were building trust, solving problems together, growing closer, building a future. But someone high in dark triad traits is playing a completely different game. Her goal wasn't intimacy, it was advantage, influence, power, resources. So she was never trying to build a future with you. She was trying to benefit from you. She was trying to see how much farther she could get you to drive without having to put any gas in the tank. Every once in a while, sure, she'd put enough gas in the tank to keep you going. She'd turn up the charm. You'd have maybe a great weekend, great sex, an awesome vacation. Maybe she'd be fun again. And you'd think, we're finally getting somewhere. And your whole nervous system would relax. You'd get relief from all the anxiety. And boom, your guards would fall back to sleep. And then you drive another 100 miles. But the truth is, the destination doesn't exist. You're just going deeper into the maze. And then one day you'll wake up lost and really far away from home. Number 7 is that she always had an exit route. So one of the hardest parts to accept is that she was always only planning to stay as long as she was getting what she wanted. The lifestyle, the money, the freedom, the status. So one thing you probably noticed is that she always kept her options open by staying in contact with old boyfriends, male business contacts. There were always hidden networks and people being groomed in the background. The fact is, your car was never meant to go the distance. It was meant to be driven hard and fast, run into the ground, crashed, and then she lit it on fire and walked away. And if you're watching this video thinking, holy shit, this happened to me, and you're experiencing that horrible moment when the illusion completely collapses, when you realize that you were never driving toward a permanent destination, you were simply temporary transportation, that's the moment that the whole meaning of the relationship changes, and everything suddenly needs to be reprocessed. And it's really easy to beat yourself up as you look at this in hindsight. But remember, you were in love and you believed that she needed your protection, and you did everything in your power to keep your promises. That's not weakness. That's what honorable men do. But there is a point where hope, optimism, and loyalty stop being virtues and become liabilities, because it's what keeps you trapped in the maze. And I don't want you to get hung up on whether this is narcissism or dark triad traits. You might never know for sure. Your only job now is to see reality clearly, learn from the experience, and become wiser so you can protect yourself from being hijacked like this in the future. The goal here isn't to stop trusting people or relationships. Most people are good. But the goal is to never hand someone the keys before they've truly earned them. And if you're realizing that this relationship changed you more than you thought, then I would strongly suggest you reach out to a therapist in your area who can help you process the experience and heal from this trauma. You may also want to consider my toxic relationship recovery program that I linked in the description section below. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.